Good evening, everybody. It's been quite a few years since I've done any kind of a teisho. It has been a very interesting few years. Everything from moving the zendo and splitting it in two and having a city rental space and then the main temple in the mountains to the COVID epidemic, which shut pretty much everybody down for a couple of years. And then for the past 2 years, a little over 2 years, I've been in and out of the hospital undergoing severe spinal surgery. And the first time, as many of you know, I almost lost my life. I was on life support for a week and had forgotten who I was and where I was. And that was a very difficult period, but also um, a very meaningful and deeply altering experience. My teacher, Genjo Roshi, had actually mentioned this situation in one of his Dharma talks, so I thought I'd throw his name out too, because this Dharma talk is a little different than his, but really the root of this koan for me now at this point in time is from the past couple years undergoing these spinal surgeries and then my brush with death. And it is from the Blue Cliff record. It is case 29, Daizui's It Will Be Gone with the Other. Engo's introduction. Fish swimming, the water is disturbed. A bird flying, a feather falls. Host and guest are clearly distinguished. Black and white are sharply divided. It is like a clear mirror on the stand and a bright jewel in the hand. When a man of Han appears, he is reflected. If a man of Ho comes, he is mirrored. Sound is manifest, color is apparent. How will it be like that? See the following. Main subject. A monk asked Daizui, when the Kalpa fire flares up and the great cosmos is destroyed, I wonder, will it perish or will it not perish? Zui said, it will perish. The monk asked, then will it be gone with the other? Zui said, it will be gone with the other. Secho's verse. Blocked by the double barrier, the monk asked from the heart of the Kalpa fire, wonderful the words, it will be gone with the other. Thousands of miles he wandered in vain, seeking a master. I always say time and time again that you never really pass a koan, that you just have a brief kensho or insight into the koan, enough to continue to investigate it as life organically brings it to the forefront. So this koan became much, much deeper during the last couple years because of my own deep question, will it be gone with the other? And coming to a point where I was, in all intents, gone. I had bled out, my kidneys had shut down, I was on a ventilator, so I wasn't conscious for, I think it was close to a week. And then when I did start becoming conscious, I didn't know who I was, I didn't know where I was, I didn't know, what the tube was down my throat or why my hands were strapped to my side. I literally thought I was being imprisoned. I thought that I was in prison. I had no idea what was going on, and it took about another week for me to just come to the realization that I had gone to the hospital and that this surgery had been set up months beforehand, and that that this whole situation had been planned out. But for me, I had no idea what was going on. To me, I had no recognition of anything, none of the events, the setting up the surgery or the surgery occurring, nothing like that. So there was nothing for me to hold on to at all. And there wasn't even any idea of practice to fall back on, because I didn't even have any connection with anything. I was kind of spinning just out of control. My brain was just trying to create some semblance of reality, but of course was making brutal mistakes. I think the first reality I created was that I had been imprisoned, and that's why I was restrained, is because I was in prison. But of course it was so I couldn't pull the tubes out of my throat. And then it took a couple weeks after that in the hospital, little by little by little, until the time came, where I was like, oh, I did schedule this surgery and I did have a surgery and my wife did drive me here. I just had no recognition of any of this. But afterwards, I ended up having to have the surgery repeated a second time, because the first time errors were made, and I actually was given scoliosis. So what was done was meant to stabilize the spine, but yet it destabilized the levels above. So I had to go under the knife again and have the same exact surgery done again, all of the hardware removed and then put back in. So it was a very, very trying time. And after that, I remember it. It took some time before I started to begin to feel that yearning for that Zen connection again, and I couldn't feel it. And it was probably one of the most painful things for me, even beyond the surgery, that I've ever experienced, is feeling or perceiving that I have been separated from it, that there was nothing, And after 30 years of practice, it was something. My practice had always been with me, and I always knew that no matter how hard things ever got for me, that my practice was always there, right? I could always fall back on my practice. Sometimes we have to lean on the staff, and other times we throw the staff over our shoulder. And this time I really needed the staff to lean on, but I couldn't feel it. I couldn't find it. And it made me feel almost as though I was in a nihilistic state, that there was nothing, that I had been somehow disconnected. And this is the way that I have felt. And it was a very sorrowful time for me, because I live in this temple. I'm surrounded by all of this stuff. I've dedicated my whole life for close to 30 years to it. And I had lost all connection to it. Like, I could not feel it anymore. And I was wondering for a while, even though I started to go back to the Zendo and the Lehigh Valley and this Zendo, and started to teach again, I still did not feel that connection, and was a little worried that that connection was gone. And it was heartbreaking for me. To feel like there was nothing. And I say feel like there was nothing, right? Because of course there's more to it. And I would think it's very close to this monk who probably is pondering very much the same thing, has come to this realization that, everything will be gone, and knows in his heart that this is true, but wants so much too for there to be some loophole or some special, Zen teaching, that gives us kind of a way out, And he's desperate, and he's desperately asking Daizui, for something to hold on to, for something to give him some sense of stability and comfort. But Daizui just says, it'll be gone. Um, and even hearing that, the young monk, asks again, so then it'll be gone with the other? Like he hears it and he knows it, but still he cannot accept it, and he asks it in another way, trying to separate something out of it again. It and other. So it will be gone with the other, it, so the calp of fire, the forge, that has created the universe, or the universes, the multiverse, or whatever. Even that, even that will be gone. Even that will die. Even that will cease to exist. And no, that can't be. We all think that there's some kind of source in there, and we can even keep reducing it, the source of the source of the source, all the way down, trying to find some, little loophole, but we can't. And this is Daizui's lesson: is no. You can keep reducing it as much. You can ask it in as many ways as you want, but it does not matter what it is. It will be gone with the other. It will be gone. Everything, nothing will remain. In an intellectual way, it's very easy to see this from a Buddhist, a theological perspective. It's easy to see, just looking around you, we see things, life that is born, and then life that perishes, and then, its elements are broken down into its most fundamental aspects, and then are reabsorbed, and life spurs, up once again. We would have physics that tells us that energy can't be destroyed; it can only be, transformed. So it's a kind of a common thing. We're like, oh yeah, So this is this is true. This is okay, because it'll just come back, Yeah, and this is like the follow-up question, like the energy can't be destroyed, can only can be converted. You'd be like, oh, okay, so then energy, so then it's energy. Energy can keep going, right? So there's always energy. But Daizui says, nope, it'll be gone too. Nothing to hold on to. Nothing to hold on to. He's cast out, And we all have confronted this question and this koan probably many times in our lives, sometimes deeply, and other times just kind of brush over it. I remember the first time that I really looked into this question was before I started to actually formally practice Zen. And that was the beginning of my back problems that started very young in my teenage years after a surfing accident. I had been in my early 20s. I had got married and was finishing up school and had my own business and was married and had a newborn. And I think it was by age 23, my back had totally failed to the point where I couldn't walk. I literally was going to work one day and reached down to get my keys off the ground that had dropped, and I literally fell to the ground and couldn't get back up, and an ambulance had to get me. So long story short, I lost everything. Nice home in the country, and cars, and all of these things, and ended up with a newborn and newlywed, and living in a one-bedroom efficiency apartment in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And it was one night that I really just was looking for something. I was so desperate for something to hold on to, for something to pull myself up from, something to hold on to, because I felt like I was going under. I was drowning. So I was sitting out on the back fire escape, and the fire escape looks over something called the Jordan Creek, which is more like a small river. And there was a thunderstorm. It was around late spring, early summer, and there was lightning strikes, and I was just kind of looking out over the river and tears streaming down my eyes, again looking for something, some permanent something to help me to stay afloat. And a lightning bolt struck on the far side of the river, and everything lit up. And we've probably all seen this numerous times when there's a lightning strike that's close and at nighttime, and all of a sudden it looks like daylight just for a moment. Everything lights up really bright. And that is what this was. But for me, it was something much, much different and much, much deeper. For me, it was the experience of seeing everything all at once, like seeing the big picture. So my life had been reduced. The more we kind of, look into ego, and the more that we struggle, the smaller our world becomes. And the more suffering that is cultivated by that makes the process even more severe, and our world just begins to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And then we begin to feel disconnected. We begin to feel lonely. We begin to feel like something is missing. And it's because our world has become so narrow. And we sense this. We sense that there's something that's not quite right. There's something that we have disconnected from, or that we're missing. And at this moment, it was like my world opened up even broader than it ever had before. And I felt invigorated, and I felt truly awake. And they say it's like a dumb man that's had a dream, because it certainly was. I wasn't sure what had happened, but something happened, because everything changed. I mean, there wasn't any miraculously, cure that was found, or I didn't, start, walking perfectly after that, or didn't have any back pain or anything like that. All that stuff was still there, but yet everything had also changed. I say it's like the experience of going on vacation for a period of time, a week or two. And then when we come home and we open the door, it's weird because everything is the same. It's as we left it, but yet also everything is different. It seems different, right? And that's how it felt to me. It felt very different. Everything was kind of the same, but yet it also was very different. So this was that first kind of great question, what is life and death, and what is permanent, and what is there to hold on to, and what is there when everything is taken away? What is life? What is it even when your life is taken away? Your ability to walk is taken away. And this time around, deepened it even more, because my whole self-identity was stripped away from me from the surgery. I was on a ventilator. I was unconscious for a week. They had me posied down. My kidneys and had shut down, and I was in really bad shape, and I didn't know where I was. And it took some time to figure out where I was. And when I finally started to piece things together, and I had to relearn how to walk, and after I did that, then I started kind of seeing things around me again. And I live in a Zen temple, small Zen temple, and I teach at one in Allentown in the Lehigh Valley, and I had responsibilities there. So I started feeling like I could at least drive or sit in a chair. I started attending, but I must say that I felt something was missing. I felt like that initial experience, as well as the past 30 years of experiences, had been kind of taken away, had been burned up in the Kalpa fire, that there just was nothing for me. I felt that there was a disconnect. I couldn't connect anymore. I couldn't root anymore. I couldn't feel it anymore. And it was something that I had always known that it would always be there for me no matter what had happened. That I could always just sit. I could always just root, and no matter what, no matter how the winds, blew, I would still remain strong. And this was true up until this point. My teacher, Genjo, had mentioned, he had said, he had talked a little bit about this story, and he said, well, I wanted to ask him when I was talking to him, well, what do you think it would have been like if you didn't have 30 years of Zen experience? And which is a valid point. I can't say that, I don't know, there was no recognition of that connection or of any kind of practice during that period. So I don't know. I still can't answer that, question. Would it have been even worse? I don't know that it could have been worse. I don't even think maybe death could have been worse than that experience, to be honest with you. The confusion and suffering were immense from that, both from a physical perspective, because I had my kidneys had shut down, so I couldn't have any pain medication. And they paralyzed me, so I was feeling all this pain, but I couldn't move. So it was quite intense. But as time went on, and I began to practice again, and I began to sit again, and at first it was like 5 or 10 minutes, and that was even in a chair, and that was an accomplishment. And then I sat more and more, and then that connection started to come back more and more, until it kind of was what it was before, but even kind of on a deeper level of understanding that, we can use the staff to lean on as we're navigating the path that we call life. And we can throw that staff over our shoulder at times too, but it can also be taken away. Zen practice is nothing more than just a collection of tools that help us to live a deeper and a happier life, with a little bit more understanding, hopefully, of the preciousness of all life. But it's not something that is outside of this Kalpa fire. It will be gone. The Zen practice will be gone with the other. It can be taken away. It's nothing special. It's nothing magical. It can very well be taken away. And it does for many of us from time to time. When something traumatic happens and we lose our footing totally for an extended period of time, whether it be some kind of sickness or some kind of drastic change in a relationship, to where we just are, cast away, a boat without a rudder per se. So Daizui answers here, the monk asked Daizui, he says, when the Kalpa fire flares up and the great cosmos is destroyed, so the Kalpa fire is the forge of the whole universe, right? So when the Kalpa fires rise, right, so when they get so hot, that they kind of burn everything away, will it be left? Will there be something left? And he answers no. Even the Kalpa fire itself will burn out, will turn to ashes, will end. The universe will end, the multiverses will end, whatever you want to say, there will be nothing left. But with that, I will say one thing. Even with that said, there is something that is at the core of all of this. We point to it and we brush up against it and we touch it, but yet we cannot name it. We can't grab a hold of it. It's not something that does not change. It's constantly changing. That's what could we call it? And this is really what this koan is pointing to. Yes, everything will be gone. Zen practice will be gone. The Dharma will be gone. You know, the lineages will all die. All of that will, you know, be gone. But there's something else in Daizui's answer that we must investigate in this koan that is really of the most importance. And sometimes we're really forced to look at it. And in order to look at it, we have to explore kind of both sides of it. The side of nihilism, of everything being gone. What is it when everything is really gone? What is that feeling when everything's gone? And it's really hard to do when you're in session, you know, in a zendo, because the bell rings and you get up and leave. You know, so it's not really a matter of life and death or of everything being stripped away. It's kind of as though, and it's a brief insight, but really with these koans, we really don't see into them with any depth until they're organic, until life actually brings them up and we see them up close. Sometimes closer than we want to, but we see them very close. And in that dark, dark, dark night, you know, for me it was, you know, not knowing who I was or where I was or who my wife was or losing connection with my practice in that dark, dark, dark night. You know, what is there when we turn into it versus turning away from it or looking for a way out of it? Right? So this monk is looking for a way out. He's looking for a secret door or something to sneak out. But what is it when we turn towards that darkness, that emptiness, that impermanence, and walk into it? And life will do this at some point in time, you know, whether it's in our early years or latter years or on our deathbed, this experience of moving into that emptiness, of being forced to move into that emptiness, being forced to really honestly look at this, will come for us all. And as in anything with Zen, the experience that we walk away with is invigorating and powerful, and helps us to mature, to understand a little bit more about the precious nature of all things in life, including ourselves. But also to understand too that there are some things that are beyond our ability to conceive or to create constructs for, that may be at play in a different realm or existence than we are used to navigating through. So in Secho's verse, it says, blocked by the double barrier. So the young monk, asked kind of in two ways, it and other. So he's blocked by both. So it's the play of words or of diction or of separation is not working. The double barrier, has blocked his questions, his angles. And the monk asked from the heart of the Kalpa fire. Again, he's asking from, that please give me something. Give me something to hold on to. Give me something, to give me hope. He wants to know so bad and is yearning so bad and is probably suffering quite from it. Because he really wants so much for there to be something that he can hold on to that knows it's going to continue, that he's a part of. And he's grasping and grasping and grasping at it. Wonderful the words, it will be gone with the other. Right? Wonderful are the words. And again, this is another key thing that points to maybe the koan is not quite what we think it is, as all koans, well, most of them are. Wonderful are the words, right? So what is it to turn into that darkness? What is it to turn into that emptiness, that blackness, that nothingness? What is it? And then to say, wonderful the words, wonderful the words, wonderful the words. What is it quite pointing at with that? It will be gone with the other. So Secho's giving us a little breadcrumb and being quite grandmotherly towards us and saying, wonderful the words. Thousands of miles he wandered in vain, seeking a master, right? So there's a story about this young monk. And apparently, after he talked to Daizui, he traveled up the river quite a far distance to seek the advice of another monk on the matter. And the monk had said, that, wow, another, Buddha had been born. What a wonderful teacher. You should go back to him and you should thank him. So the monk, wanders all of this the way, up the river to find a master that's going to placate his desires. And the Zen teacher praises the teacher he just came from and says, you better get right back up there and you better thank him because he is awakened, what a rare thing. So the monk it's like, oh geez, so he goes to travel back up to talk to Daizui, and the irony is by the time he gets back to talk to Daizui has died. Another great lesson from Daizui and a great way to answer this koan. So it's been nice reaching out to everybody again, and thank you for all of your support during those trying couple of years. As I said in some of my texts, that will not be forgotten, and I truly do have a deeper appreciation of what it is to have friends to walk with along the way. Even though many times in Zen practice, our practice is our own, and we're focusing on our own practice per se, but yet really our practice is the practices of everybody else as well. And having those people there in a absolute and in a relative way, relative way of just having friends to talk to support you, and vice versa, is really what the Sangha is about, both of those aspects. So for those of you that are out there that are practicing alone, I feel for you, and I did for a period of time, but I truly would recommend that you find a sangha in your area, even if it's just a couple people, or even if you open your home up, once every couple of weeks and invite a couple people over to sit. The Sangha is a very important and something that we don't talk a great deal about. It's kind of inferred within Zen practice during session. But for those that haven't done session yet, or for those that don't live near a Zen center, maybe you could try online, at least finding a Sangha that you can connect with virtually is better than sitting alone. So take care, and thank you for listening.